I am companion to the gods. I can conceive while I am pregnant. I call the dawn and spring in. I am the Advent. And the art course was fantastic. I think I found when I was at school it was quite constricting and sort of stopped me being creative. And then I got to college and, you know, I was suddenly in this new environment where all of the teachers were practicing artists and, you know, they all had their different fields. So I was doing painting and printmaking, and it was wonderful because I'd always sort of looked at all these paintings when I went to galleries and thought, I really want to try that, and I want to, you know, have a go at all these different things. But you know, when you're a bit younger, you don't really have the sort of facilities to do those things. And suddenly I got to college and they had all these printing presses and, you know, canvases lying around everywhere and dark rooms and Mac suites and all this thing, and I was sort of in my element. Yeah, I remember quite early on we were sort of trying different things. So in fact, my first ever class, we were doing observational drawing. So, you know, our teacher, who's this wonderful flamboyant lady called Rose, who's really inspiring, she had all these different things. So, you know, like shells and skulls and, you know, yeah, all bits of bones and things on a table. And she just said, you know, go there and pick up something that interests you or that you like the feel of, or something like that. And you know, so I went up and I picked up this big animal skull with a big horn on it, and you know, it was wonderful texture, dark colours and contrasts and things. So she said, you know, I'll sit down, okay, and then, you know, get a pot of ink and a stick and a big bit of paper. And so we were all sort of sitting there going, oh, this is going to be great, you know, and people are sort of sitting around waiting. And she said, no one is allowed chairs, no chairs. You know, she was like taking people's stools, and she said, none of that, you know, you have to sort of stand up and let the art flow through your body. You know, you're constricting yourself if you sit down. And, you know, I was just thinking, I'm in the right place. Wonderful. Yes, I mean, she was really inspiring, and she got us just trying everything, you know. So one week we'd be doing, you know, ink drawings, and the next week we'd be doing etchings and all of that, and it was great fun. But she always got us, you know, moving about, and it wasn't like a, you know, being at school where you're sort of sitting in one place and you can't talk. And, you know, she had music blaring out, and, you know, we were all moving around having a laugh, and it was really like just a wonderful, inspiring place for young people to be. You know, and the same with my photography classes as well. You know, first time I'd always dreamed of being in a darkroom, you know, because that was always something you see in movies and stuff as a kid, you know, these really cool things like you see darkrooms and, you know, all these pictures hanging up on pegs and things, and I just thought that's so cool. Yeah, so I got to start doing that and working with traditional. And finally at Long Road Sixth Form College, it was about a couple of months in, I tried my first oil painting, which was something that I'd most wanted to do. And it was just a copy of another artist's work, but my teacher let me use a palette knife, and for me, like, we'd always been told, you can't do that, you know, that's a bit too difficult and all the rest of it. And she was like, oh, you know, just give it a bash. And I just remember being so pleased with what I came out with. And so I started using oil painting as one of my main mediums, really. And then I went back to Exmoor that summer, you know, and I was sort of just doing some more artwork because I always take bits and bobs to do while I'm there. Yeah, so I went down to Exmoor that summer, and you know, Bobby was in a bit of a state because my favourite dog was very ill, and she'd always been there from the very first time I'd gone. So it was quite an emotional time, really. And then sort of on the last 3 days I was there, Minky, she was a little sort of terracotta coloured staffy, passed away, and you know, we both had to cry together and, you know, sort of having a cuddle, and we were both devastated, really, because I'd been going there longer than a lot of the other girls as well, so they didn't really know the dog as well. But for me, it was kind of it was almost like a leaving of childhood as well. It was at that time when a lot of the things that I'd most cherished from childhood were sort of disappearing. I mean, you know, of those between 16 and 18, that quite often seems to be the case, is that a lot of those things fade away, and it seemed like another one of those, you know, just endings. Yeah. So, you know, I was very sad about it. And as soon as I got home, I just thought, you know, it'd be terrible not to look at her face again, you know, just those dear little eyes. So what I did was I went out that week and I bought my first canvas, which is a sort of, you know, one of those, it's almost like a Victorian / Edwardian kind of portrait shape. And, you know, went trawling through all the old photos, because obviously I've been taking photos there for years, and I had photos of every single one of those animals, you know, all sort of piled up. And I found an absolutely gorgeous picture of her, you know, from maybe 4 years beforehand, and started painting. And, you know, I sort of feverishly painted for a while and then left it. And then, you know, it took me quite a while, but eventually I was sort of painting with this tiny eyeliner-sized brush, you know, which is so different from what I do now. But you know, I just remember getting so caught up on all the details and the little hairs, and because, you know, you could see everything in the sunlight from the photograph, so it's sort of all captured right there. And yeah, I remember sort of maybe a year later going back to Exmoor, and you know, I still hadn't finished it, but I had it there, and I was painting away in the cottage, and, you know, trying to hide it from Bobby, because she had a habit of sort of coming in and cleaning up after everyone, you know. So sort of trying to hide it, and then eventually finished it towards the end of the holiday. And yeah, sort of, we were all sitting in her living room and all having a glass of wine together and just, you know, having a laugh. And I just said, you know, I've got something I want to show you, and, you know, sit down there. And I went off and got it, and then kind of pulled it out, and she just couldn't say anything, you know. She just looked at it and sort of was just, you know, she just started weeping. That was the basis for a lot of the work that I do now. I mean, that was the first of many animal portraits, I suppose. But that was, yeah, the format of having the animal looking out directly at you, you know, looking into the camera originally from the photo that I've taken, and then capturing that in a painting, and it almost feels like you're staring at a real animal, you know, they're pulling you in, kind of thing. So the love of animals and the dog painting was where the inspiration for all my artwork has come. Yeah, so I always loved that documentary, and what it was like one of those David Attenborough half-hour things, you know, with the hairs, but the song was sort of telling a story behind it, and I've always been obsessed with that song ever since. I bring life from water in a cup that must be broken. I whisper to the bursting egg, I'm a stray token.